So earlier we saw two ways of creating function declaration and function expressions. Now we are going to see the third way of creating a function in JavaScript, which is called a function constructor. So as you remember earlier, that let's say we have a string, let's say const x or const str is equal to hello, right? So you can see that if you print str and type of str, then you will see that let's comment this for now. Then you will see that yeah, this is a hello string and its type of is string. That is fine. But if you remember, then we had another way. We had a constructor way of creating string. So like if it is a number, right, let's say 5 or 5.8 whatever, then we could also create a have a constructor number 5, right? Similarly, if we have a string, then we could have a constructor string, right? In that we can pass this thing, right? And now if we print, then still we are able to see that yeah, this thing is a string, right? Sometimes what happens that let's say when this is a number, so let's say const str is equal to const num, this is a number string, num is equal to number, and let's say yeah, let's say 3.8, and now we print num and we print type of num, then we are going to see that this is a number 3.8, right? And the type of num is number, right? So that is what we were discussing, is that there are many ways. Instead of simply num is equal to 3.8, we are writing like this. Instead of simply str is equal to hello, we can create a constructor, right? Similarly, when we are creating a function, right, then also instead of this we have a way of creating it using a constructor, right? And that is this way. Okay, so in constructors actually we could also use the new keyword. So you can understand that we could have new, and you can understand that now this is an object. Okay, so earlier when we were simply using it like a function, like a function, so this is string was used like a function. Now it is used like a constructor function, which you'll see later. But if you put a new keyword over here, then now this thing is no more the type of is no more a simple string, rather it's an object. It's an object whose internal contents is a string, and then we saw a property called value of, using which you can extract that value earlier, right? In a similar manner here also, now this num is not a simple number, it is an object containing internally a number which you can get by a value of, right? But the whole thing is now an object, right? In a similar manner, when we have something like this, a function, then we could also do something like const foo is equal to new, and then there is a constructor called function. So like for string is there, for number is there, similarly for function is there. But now what to write in this, so that exactly the same behavior as above is obtained. Okay, so the idea is something like this: you create a you create a construct, you call this constructor like new this function constructor, and inside that you can pass the body of the whole function as a string, which means that if the body, this whole body is my, this whole thing is my body, then I will pass this as a string. Okay, now if you see that, let's say this thing is let's call this function foo. Okay, then if we call this function foo, then yeah, hello is printed. Now let's do the same thing for the second one. So let's comment this one, and what we newly created using our constructor function constructor. Now let's call that, and we see that exactly the same as above, the behavior is coming. So, and you can test all of the other things also. Just that yeah, it will be if you print foo, and if you print type of foo, then obviously now we are getting this new function, right? And in this case we are getting a type of function, but that is how it is, right? That if we create and this is unnamed, we can see that this is anonymous function, and you can see that this is anonymous function foo, and then type of foo, if we print, then this is function, not object. Oh yeah, so this is fine, because of like other data types, function is also a proper data type. And the turns out the constructor, if we create a constructor, then also it creates a type of functions, that is fine. But more importantly, when we call this, then you can understand that we are getting we are getting similar to the above way. Here we are getting a function which executes the body when called. So whatever the thing which we called here, that gets executed. Now this is fine, but what about something like this? So let's say we wanted to pass something here, right? So let's say I pass some ABC or XYZ, some val I am passing, right? And let's say I want to print that also, comma val, right? Now how to do that? Right? The body, obviously, so body we can pass. So as it is, instead of this, I can also write comma val here, we can write here, right? That is fine. But this val is passed. How do we signify that? How do we communicate that in this way? Turns out there is another syntax where just one more thing, this can be multi-line values also, right? So for example, this can right now I just printed a simple thing, right? Let's say one more thing I am printing. Let's say const ASD is equal to 45, and I'm printing let's say ASD, right? This is fine. So my point is that similar thing you can do, like this whole body, any body, the whole piece of body, you can write it here, okay? And now it is a multi-line text, so you can use template literals to write that, and this will work exactly like that. So you can see that hello 45 is printed. So in a similar manner, like here hello 45 would have been printed, right? In a similar manner, hello here also hello 45, and all the indentation and that you can do, that is fine. So multi-line strings also work here. It's just that if you use let's say if you don't want to use multi-line strings, then if you use normal single quotes or double quotes, then proper skipping has to be done. But obviously the most easiest way is to use template literals for multi-line strings. That is fine. Just wanted to show you that the whole body can be passed it like this. The thing which we were discussing earlier, that if we want to pass some arguments, then you can pass it something like this. So what happens is that inside the constructor you can pass many arguments, right? And the last one is the body. So here only one argument is there, this argument is there, right? And that argument is the last argument, and that is the body. Turns out you can pass other arguments. So for example, let's say let's consider here, rather than passing ASD writing here, let's say I'm writing ASD here, okay? I'm passing that ASD here, which means that now I will call here, let's say here 35, right? Then hello 35 will be printed, right? So ASD is not defined like const here, right? So obviously you can simulate it like, yeah, so my body is this, so that is fine, and it is just a single line, so no need of having multiple lines, so that is fine. So yeah, this is fine. But how do we pass ASD? And that is the thing which I'm discussing here, is that the last argument is the body, and before that you can pass any number of arguments which you want. So let's say you want to pass one argument, in a function, then what you will do, you will use one argument, and the second argument, one argument will be, the first argument will be the whatever the variable name, and the second argument will be the body. If you want to pass two arguments, then the first and second are arguments in this function constructor will be your variables which you want to use in the function, and then the third one will be the body. So if you want to pass n arguments, then n plus 1 arguments are passed to the function constructor, with the first n being the variables which you want to pass, and the last one will be the body. Okay, so right now we are passing one. So in this case we will single quotes or double quotes, you can pass ASD. Now it is simply like this, that yeah, ASD is the name of the variable which I am going to use, so that this is the way of signifying that, and then I will be able to capture this in here. So basically now this and this are completely equivalent. Just a note that you can understand that now the code is being written as like a string, and internally you can understand that now this is behaving like eval, and we said that eval is dangerous. So similarly this is also dangerous. You should not use it more often, but sometimes if you want, you can use this if the body of or something is coming from the database as a string using some API or something. But this is generally less used, but this is one of the supported ways. That's why for the sake of completeness I'm mentioning this also. So if you now run this thing, you can see that exactly foo35, the same behavior as above. Fine. In this case, this is a square function. So if 5 is passed, then 5 into 5, 25 is returned. That is fine. What if two arguments? So we mentioned two arguments you need in function. So 3 arguments you need to pass in the constructor function. The first two being the variable names, and the last is the body. So this thing is equivalent to something like this: A, B, and then you are doing return A plus B. So you can understand that this thing is exactly like A and B, return A plus B. Okay, and then what will the behavior? The behavior will be sum has to be called with two arguments, first argument comma second argument, and then you will get the output as the returned sum. So 5, 10, you will get the sum 15. Okay. Now the same thing, other things like bind and something which we used on functions, we can use the same thing on function constructor also, because function constructor essentially is not something new. It just gives us at the end of the day, it just gives us also a function only. So let's say we have got a function something like this. Now it is as good as something like this. Now if we know that we can use sum dot bind or something, then the same thing we can use sum dot bind or something, and then let's say we are not interested in this for now, but let's say one argument out of A and B, the first argument A I have attached. Then I know that I can call sum with let's say 20 or 30. Then A will be 5 because one is already attached. B was not attached, so I need to pass one argument here, and that B will be 30. So 5 plus 30, 35 will be the thing which is returned, and since this is returned, so I need to put this in console log. So if I run this, then just give me 1 minute. Let's see. Okay, so sorry, I forgot to bind it. Sum is equal to sum plus, yeah, so that is the thing, and since I am binding it, so I have to assign it. So yeah, so sum dot bind gives us a bound function, but it does not modify the given function, right? So you need to reassign it, and now you get 5 plus 30, 35. So the point is that the same thing which we are able to do here, exactly the same thing we could do here also. So you can understand that this line is almost exactly equivalent to this thing. Now once we are ready with this sort of function, then we can do sum is equal to sum dot bind null 5, right? Sum is equal to sum dot bind null 5, and then exactly if we do and then a is attached with 5 but the b is not attached, so we have to call this and then we call it with 10, let's say. Then now b is 10 and a is 5, and then 10 plus 5, 15 is returned. Yeah, so rest everything works as it is. Just I wanted to show you another way of creating a function using function constructor. So that will be all for this video. See you in the next one.